Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Tim, he's Nate. It's been a while since we've heard from Nate since college football season because we don't necessarily do a ton of NCAA basketball coverage. But here for March Madness, we are going to be giving you our first round predictions for every single game, the Final Four predictions, our national championship predictions, and who we think will be the best overall player in the tournament. So Nate, first off, what's up, man?
Nothing much, Tim. How's you been?
Pretty good. Really busy with these videos. Guys, we're going to try and do our best to make videos about this. Continue making the MLB 30 Club in 30 Days recaps, NBA videos. Problem is, I go to school all day, then I go to track practice, then I go to soccer practice, so it gets a little nuts for a while there. So if there's not videos on certain nights about big events, I apologize. I'm doing our best here. Let's start in the South, whatever division of the bracket. Game 1, Kentucky will play either MVSU or WKU, and that would... Who you got in that game, Nate?
I have Kentucky.
Yeah,
I don't think Kentucky's losing that one.
Yeah,
no.
Most of these big games, there's not too much to talk about. We have a 1 versus 16. That will be one of the playing games. It will be Mississippi Valley State against Western Kentucky. So Western Kentucky against Kentucky would be a pretty interesting game. But overall, I think we know who's going to come out and win that one. Next game is Iowa State versus UConn. UConn, obviously last year's national champion, really took a dip this year, though. What do you see, or who do you see winning this game?
This is a tough one for me, Tim. I'm gonna definitely watch this game, and I think I'm gonna enjoy watching it if I get a chance to. But I'm gonna take Iowa State. I just think UConn fell out of their place from where they were last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then you go to VCU, who's one of the Cinderella teams last year. Shaka Smart as their head coach. He's been a hot coaching candidate for numerous of the jobs opening up. And then you also look over against Wichita State, who is the number 5 seed. I'm going to take VCU in an upset here. Who do you have?
Same. I think VCU has a great history in March Madness, and I think they have a great upset history, so I'm going to take them.
And then the next game is number 4 Indiana versus number 13 New Mexico State. I'm going to take Indiana in this game. Who do you have?
It's a tough one for me because I sort of like New Mexico State. I watched them a few times this year. They can be an explosive team at times, but I took Indiana just because I think they're a better overall rounded team.
And then you have UNLV against Colorado, number 6 versus number 11. I got UNLV.
Yep, same. They're just a better team than Colorado.
One of the most interesting teams in this tournament to me is number 3 Baylor. They'll play number 14 South Dakota State. Obviously, Brittany Griner and the undefeated Baylor women's team get all the attention. But the Baylor men's team, who wore those hideous uniforms the other night, they have really actually been a very good team this year. And I see them making a decent run in this tournament, so I have Baylor in this game.
Yep, same. I like Baylor in this tournament. I think they'll do well.
Then you have Xavier, who was the number 10 seed. They've kind of fallen down from what they were against number 7 Notre Dame. I have Notre Dame in this one. I've seen them play numerous times this year, and I've been impressed.
I've done the same, but I'm going to take Xavier for the upset. I think Xavier's a better team than Notre Dame. They share the same overall record. They were both number 3 in their conference. I think Xavier's going to win.
Then you have Duke versus Lehigh, and me and Nate live about, 15 minutes away from Lehigh?
Usually, I watched the Lehigh-Bucknell game, and I was cheering for Lehigh the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, Lehigh, that's where the Eagles have their training camp, so you see me and KJ and everyone making videos from there every year. So, I obviously am very familiar with Lehigh, but let's be honest here, Duke is going to wipe the floor with Lehigh the same way Kansas did the other year when Lehigh was in the tournament last.
Yeah, easily. Duke's going to annihilate Lehigh badly.
So we go to the western part of the bracket now. Number 1, Michigan State versus 16, LIU. I got Michigan State. Tom Izzo and this team always seems to get this team hot at the right time. So I have Michigan State.
Yeah, especially after their impressive victory today in the Big Ten Conference titleship, I think Michigan State.
Then you have number 8, Memphis versus number 9, St. Louis. I didn't even know until this year that there was even a college just called straight up St. Louis. But I'll take Memphis in that one.
I have to disagree with you, Tim. I watched St. Louis play a few times here and there this year, and they did well in their conference. They did well overall in their season, so I'm going to take St. Louis.
The next game is number 5 New Mexico State versus number 12 Long Beach State. And I'm going to go with New Mexico in this one.
Yep, same.
And then you have number 4 Louisville, fresh off winning the Big East tournament behind really a nice run in the tournament for them. And then you have Davidson, which was where Steph Curry went the other year. Who you have in this one?
Louisville. I mean, they're rolling off the win in the Big East, and I just think they're going to keep going into March Madness.
Yeah, and I mean, UConn wasn't like a huge power. They were number 10 or 11 in the country last year. They won the Big East tournament. Kemba Walker got hot, and obviously that propelled them. So I can see Louisville making a similar run this season. They were very disappointing in the tournament last year. They kind of screwed me out of some money. I had them going to like the Elite 8, and they lost in like the second round. So hopefully you see better out of them this year. Next game is Murray State versus Colorado State. What do you think about that one?
I think both of them are very good, but I think Murray State's going to win that one.
Yeah, I agree. And then the next would be Marquette versus either, this is another one of the playing games, BYU or Iona. And it's amazing that BYU is a play-in this year. And last year they had Jimmer Fredette, and they were one of the talks of the country. But I got Marquette against whoever they play in this one.
Yeah, I like Marquette usually in March Madness, and I think they're a good team this year. I'm taking them too.
Number 7 Florida is then going to play number 10 Virginia, and I like Virginia in the upset in this one. What do you think?
That's an interesting matchup. I mean, they're both good teams. Virginia had a better overall record than Florida, but I think Florida's in a more powerhouse conference, and I think they're going to win that one.
And the final one in the West bracket, as we're halfway done after this one, you have Missouri, number 2, against 15 Norfolk State. I'm going to take Mizzou with this one.
Yeah, easily.
So we look towards the East section of the bracket, which I think is probably the most interesting section of the bracket overall. You have Syracuse against UNC Asheville, number 16. I have seen UNC Asheville. They're a pretty nice team this year. But Syracuse, among all the issues that they've had go on this season with the Bernie Fine stuff and all that stuff, I'm taking Syracuse.
Same. Can't disagree.
And you have to see either they're going to melt under this, and I mean they've had a lot of issues this season, or they're going to use that as motivation and go far in this tournament. The next game is Kansas State versus Southern Miss, 8 versus 9 seed. I got K-State in this one.
I've got Southern Miss. I mean, I researched this one a bit because I thought this was going to be a tough game to take, and I like Southern Miss in this.
Alright, and then the next game is Vandy, number 5, will play the home Jeremy Lin's alma mater, number 12, Harvard. I'm taking Vandy in this one, though.
How can you not pick Vandy after they roll off such a huge win?
I don't know. I mean, the next game is Cincy, number 6, versus number 11, Texas. I'm going to take Cincy in this one.
Same. Cincy had that huge upset in the Big East tournament. I just think they look great right now.
Then you have number 3, Florida State versus number 14, St. Bonnie's. I like Florida State, though. They've looked really nice this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Florida State is looking really good this year.
Number 7, Gonzaga is going to play number 10, West Virginia. I like West Virginia to make a big upset here in this game.
After watching both these teams this season and watching Gonzaga get into this tournament, I really like Gonzaga. And I've liked them the past couple of years, so I think I'll take them.
Then you have another team that was very disappointing, came in with big expectations in the last year's tournament, was Ohio State. They will play Loyola in Maryland. They are the number 15 seed. I got OSU, and I think Jared Solinger, probably one of the best players in the country. I think he probably is the best player in the country. Could be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft next season. I'm going to take OSU in this one.
I'm going to agree with you there, Tim. I think OSU has potential to go far this year if they don't screw up like they did last year.
I agree. The final section of the bracket is the Midwest section. You have UNC, who will play either Lamar or Virginia Tech, but I think we all know UNC has really figured things out. They come off a big win against Duke last week. I like UNC. They won the ACC tournament, didn't they?
That's have to agree. UNC's looking pretty good right now. They like you said, they figured stuff out, and if they keep it rolling like they've been looking lately, they'll be just fine.
Number 8, Creighton versus number 9, Alabama. I like Bama for the upset. I mean, it's not the same as Bama football, but I'll take Bama for this one.
Yeah, same. I have to agree with you there. Bama's looking really nice.
And I know that I'm not going as in depth with these games. First of all, there's how many games to preview, and second of all, overall, I'm a college basketball fan, but I would not consider myself an expert. Nate's an expert. That's why he's on here. Temple number 5 versus number 12, which will either be Southern Florida or Cal. Temple hasn't blown me away this year. I think that they were only a little bit better than Drexel, who didn't even get in. But I'll take Temple in this one.
Yeah, I gotta take Temple just because I don't see anything coming out of Cal or University.
And then the next game is number 4, Michigan versus number 13, Ohio. I've seen Ohio and I've been impressed, but I also saw Michigan played a nice game against Ohio State before Sullinger took over last night. I like Michigan in this one, though.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I like Michigan more, too.
Then you have number 6, San Diego State University will play number 11, NC State. NC State got robbed out of a victory, and I think that this is one of the teams that could potentially be one of the Cinderella teams in this tournament. I'm taking NC State in an upset.
Yeah, I really like how NC State looked in the tournament, and I really think NC State could have potential to pull off the Cinderella story this year.
Number 3, Georgetown's going to play number 14, Belmont. I like Georgetown in this one. Perennially, this team is always right there.
Yeah, Georgetown just had a great team this year, and I don't see Belmont beating them.
The next game I'm going to take an upset. I like number 10, Purdue, to beat number 7, St. Mary's.
I gotta agree with you there. Purdue's always been a better team than you see them most of the time in March Madness, so I mean they're a constant qualifier.
And the final game, Kansas will play the College of Detroit, everyone's favorite college. I will take Kansas in that one. They are another team that might not be getting quite as much attention as some of these number 1 seeds, but you should watch out for. Nate, if you had to pick a team to be a potential Cinderella or a team that you could see maybe not being a Cinderella but pulling off a few upsets that maybe not everyone's looking at, we already talked about NC State. Is there any other team you have your eye on, really?
Like you said, NC State, and I'm just looking over the brackets this year. I don't see a whole lot of potential for a huge upset. But I like Xavier in the South. In the West, if possible, BYU. They're not always horrible, and they're in a good division. And in the East, Texas, possibly.
And for me, Baylor, I'll throw them into there too. I know they're a number 3 seed, but I could see Baylor making a run. I have Baylor going as far as the Elite 8 this year. I think that they will upset Duke in the Sweet 16. Austin Rivers and Duke, and I mean, Austin Rivers is a really nice player. He's going to be really nice in the NBA probably next year. Final 4, who are your 4 teams in the Final 4?
Well, South, I'm iffy about this one. I'm going to say Kentucky for now, but it's going to be difficult for Kentucky to make it past. I have Indiana, I have them playing Indiana, and then I have them playing Baylor, and it's going to be tough for them to get past those 2 teams, but I'm going to go with Kentucky. Yeah,
that's the same exact thing that I have, and I feel like Baylor could be one of the teams that pulls off an upset there, and we all know Kentucky has not necessarily finished the job the last few years, and you go back to either John Wall and Marcus Cousins, where they were clearly the best team in the country, but were not, and they had the most hype around them. They were not able to do it. John Calipari said he's taking the pressure off his players, and he's going to take it all on them. So I see Kentucky making a run to the Final 4 as well, winning the South section of the bracket. As we look at the West section, I got an upset in this one. I got Louisville winning this section of the bracket, beating Marquette to win this section of the bracket. This is probably, in my mind, the weakest part of the bracket because I have Louisville upsetting Michigan State, and then other than that, Missouri's a good team. I have them falling to Marquette, but there's not a team in there that I really see as a true national title contender.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I have Louisville going to the Elite 8, but I have Marquette beating them now.
As we look at the East section, then, you have Syracuse versus Ohio State. That's what I have as my Elite 8 matchup, and I'm going to take Ohio State in that game. I think Jared Solinger is ready to help lead this team far this year. I have them going to the Final Four. Syracuse with Melo and everything, they've had a nice season, but I do not see them going past the Elite 8.
I have two upset stories here. I've got Florida State and Vandy, two teams who have been known to upset in the past week, and I have Florida State coming out of that one.
Wow. I mean, me and Nate did not talk about any of these predictions, so the first two sections we were pretty similar, and then this third one we were completely different. Then we look at the final section, the Midwest section. You have Kansas and UNC. Those are my Elite 8. That's, I think, the only section of the bracket where I have the 1 versus 2 seeds playing in the Elite 8. In a lot of years, it does end up being that in every section, which is kind of boring. But the last few years, we've seen teams like Butler go up there and pull off some upsets, and even VCU to make it far into this tournament. So I don't like to pick straight up number 1 versus 2, even though that's what ends up happening a decent amount of time. I got UNC winning the Midwest section of the bracket. I think this is probably the most complete team in the nation.
I like that, Tim, and I like UNC, but I think the way they started out kind of worries me a little, especially in this tournament. So I have Michigan upsetting them, and I have Kansas being in the Elite 8 with Michigan, and I have Kansas coming out of that one.
Alright, interesting enough. National title, who is your matchup? I have Kentucky versus UNC.
I have Kentucky versus Kansas.
Who do you have winning?
That's a tough one. I mean, Kansas has been a solid team. These are the number 1 and number 3 teams in the AP ranks, and pretty much Kansas. I put Kansas at number 2 and Kentucky at number 1. They're both great teams. They're both very good teams, and they both had their trouble this year. But I'm going to go with Kansas because I just think lately Kentucky has trouble finishing the game. They barely squeaked out of 2 games in their conference playoffs.
Alright, I am going to go with UNC as your national title for 2012. I think that since that loss to Duke where they just completely coughed up the game, this has been probably the most complete team in the country. I see UNC coming away as your 2012 national title, Roy Williams and UNC. If you had to pick a player in this tournament that you think is going to be the best player, I'm going to go with Jared Solinger. Who do you have?
I got to agree there. I mean, I like Jared Solinger. He's a good player, and depending if his team makes it, and if I'm wrong and he makes it further into the tournament, I think he definitely has potential to get there.
Alright, so that is our March Madness predictions. Myself and Nate will be here to cover individual games. You know the type of games we're talking about. The games that are the big ones, the overtime games, the come down to the last second type games. We'll be here to do as much coverage as we potentially can. So I'll catch you guys later. Hit me up on Twitter at CashKelly_TRST. And Nate, what's your Twitter?
I am. Let me see. I think I am. I'm not sure offhand, but I will get that to you as soon as possible.
Isn't it? It's NCA_Nate, isn't it?
It might be it.
Yeah, you gotta get better at the marketing section of this.
Yeah, see, I'm just better at the actual game stuff.
Alright, appreciate Nate helping us out. We will have one other March Madness prediction from a guest host, so check that out. I'm Sam, he's Nate. We'll see you guys later.